Welcome back to Sexy Sips, a podcast where we talk about relationships, sex, and wellness. My name is Elizabeth.
I'm David.
I'm Angie.
And I'm Laila.
Today we are here to play the game Hot or Not, but the Sex Health Reps version. So we're going to talk about how to develop intimacy in relationships, sort of talking about things, for example, like food in the bedroom, where we're talking about, if I were to bring, let's say, whipped cream into bed, how might someone like that? How might someone not like that? What are some pitfalls that could occur? And generally, how can you navigate that situation if, like, an issue does arise? So we have a list of topics today gathered around from our own sex health reps and various conversations that we had with others. So today our first topic is shower sex. And one of the issues that I see here is it's really easy to fall, or there's lots of different temperatures that people like. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the temperature preference is the thing that I find would be probably most challenging about shower sex. I think that there's just such a range in what people prefer, and it's one of those things that's not easy to work around. Like, you can't really compromise in the middle if someone has a strong belief either way. So I definitely think that would be a concern. I think the safety concerns around falling are definitely valid, but in dorm showers there's not much room to fall.
Just to add on to that, in addition to just the different temperatures, I think it's kind of impossible to avoid the scenario when one partner is under the water stream and one partner is not. So regardless of the water temperatures, I think one person's just always going to be a little bit colder, and it's a little hard to avoid that too. I think also if the shower is more of a bathtub, there's more risk of falling or slipping or anything of that nature, which most are in average homes, but obviously dorms are a little different, as you said.
Yeah, especially if there's no handle. I feel like that's an accessibility thing, but that's definitely not comfortable.
Completely.
Yeah, for sure. And if people like me who have glasses or contacts and have to take it off in the shower, you won't be able to see anything really, so that's probably not enjoyable for the person who
I did not think
see.
about that.
Great point.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like it's more of a preference thing too. So like if your prescription isn't that bad and it's something you enjoy, then maybe it's something you can look into and talk about with your partner.
I feel like if you have one of those like giant hotel showers, maybe that would be something, especially if you have like a handle. But also I do think that could just get difficult. The logistics of it can get messy, and that probably would bring up more arguments of like, I want the shower water, or like, you don't use the shampoo, or something that might cause like rifts in intimacy.
Just to play devil's advocate, I feel like shower sex is more built up in the media almost, or like it's anticipated to be very, very hot, very
Steamy.
Thank you, very steamy, very passionate. But in reality, I personally see the cons more than the pros, but not to say that there aren't pros to it.
Oh yeah. It definitely might be someone's jam.
Exactly.
You never know. All right, our next topic, edible lingerie. Any immediate thoughts?
Immediately no from me.
Immediately, no.
Absolutely not.
I think of like the fruit roll-ups and how like sticky that would get, and like how that could bring in ants later, or how that could like...
Oh, I didn't even think about the possibility of bugs.
I'm just thinking of like general hygiene. It doesn't sound appealing to me by any means.
I mean, if you have it on like the breast area for either sort of any sort of anatomy, you can have it on the breast, you can have it on someone's arms, you can have it anywhere. If someone likes the flavor, I guess that could be really good. And that could be like, oh, I enjoy like licking, biting, teasing, all those different sensations. And like that could be play with sensations, which could be very fun. Perhaps a shower would be needed afterwards.
I feel like a good alternative would be flavored condoms or flavored dental dams. If you don't want to go full edible lingerie, but you still want that like taste aspect.
Yeah.
I think also if you are both into this and you got consent from your partner, there's also the cleanup aspect. It's like you have to pay attention to helping your partner clean up if it's on their body, because sometimes it ends up being very imbalanced and then they feel neglected afterwards, which I think also factors into aftercare. So you have to be aware of like helping your partner clean up, like take care of the hygiene aspect with them, that sort of thing too.
That's a good point. Our next topic is dirty talk. Now, I'm going to give my immediate thoughts because I have this one down. I feel like you really need to know someone to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go up to a stranger and be like,
Hey.
I don't know. Yeah, hey. I feel like you need to know someone, and that requires a level of intimacy that you don't have with your typical person.
I feel like it also depends on what each person's into, so that goes off of like you need to know each other well, because for some one person might make a comment that is super hot for them, but the other person receiving it might feel a little icked out by that, and in that situation it might not be the best or most comfortable during sex. So
Yeah, I think you also have to pay attention to what people are comfortable with regarding their gender identities and paying attention to how you word different comments, even though the goal is to build intimacy through saying things that you wouldn't typically say in public. It's still important to monitor, what each person is comfortable with, especially regarding their identities if they come from a marginalized group.
I think a nice solution to that, to avoid anything that might possibly hurt or make your partner uncomfortable, I think a nice way to go about dirty talk then might be to center body neutrality, almost, to talk about the person rather than their body in that situation.
And I think that plays into the conversation. I had a different point that I was going to bring up about conversations during sex, and I think these 2 points sort of come in together, like dirty talking conversations versus during sex. Conversations during sex and dirty talk sort of linked together. You can have one and you can have both, where you can talk about your day, you can talk about daily life, and make it, you don't have to make it sexual. It can be something where you just get to know like how someone's day was, and that might be more comfortable for someone rather than saying like, oh, I'm gonna X, Y, or Z to you, or you look so X, Y, or Z and this.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot more approachable in order to, whether you want to build up or not to dirty talk. I think it's just nice having conversations sometimes, either to fill the silence or to build that intimacy and feel closer to someone.
Yes. All right. Another question that came up when we were talking in SHR amongst everyone else was noise in bed. Does anyone have any immediate thoughts or feelings?
I feel like it's also one of those things where you start getting more comfortable with it when you're closer to the person that you're having sex with, because sometimes those noises are uncontrollable and you might feel embarrassed if so. And so that also kind of ties into if you're having sex with a casual partner, making them feel comfortable for the noises that they're making instead of like judging them, being like, why are you making that sound? So I feel like it's something to take note of. Sometimes it's uncontrollable, and it's important not to judge them for it.
And things can be uncontrollable. They can also be just unexpected, and you have to be ready for, whatever comes out.
I think it requires a lot of vulnerability and creating that safe space, whether it is a long-term or more short-term casual partner that you're having sex with. But either way, I think it's just up to the person's preference, I guess, because some people just don't feel comfortable no matter what, or just don't like making noises in bed. And there's nothing wrong about that whatsoever, but I think it's just more so creating an environment in which people feel safe too.
Yeah, and I think feedback is always super important. And, noise in bed could be one way to provide that feedback.
A separate note that we have for our next topic. Our next topic is sex outside. And I'd like to point out a very, very important thing. This is illegal. Other people cannot consent to watching you have sex. Public nudity is illegal and can get you on a sex offender list. So please don't, just generally speaking. However, if this is something that you do end up doing, thoughts, feelings on developing intimacy, I think the whole sneaking around thing could develop intimacy, like, oh, I'm doing this, we're doing this together, like, we're breaking the rules, making sure that nobody sees us. Please make sure no one sees you. If you do choose to do this, please don't do that, because it is illegal. No one can consent to watching you. Nobody does probably want to watch you, because that would be a big surprise, especially if kids are there.
Yeah, I think there are many alternatives really to doing the legal act of having public sex. If you're looking for that thrill of like breaking the rules, you can maybe do it right like before you have to head somewhere. Then there's like that sense of urgency and gives you the adrenaline, but it's not like gonna put you on a sex offender list, you know?
Yeah.
Or if you want that risk, that risky feeling without the actual risk, you could just bring in some more role-playing aspect to like pretend almost and get that environment set between you and your partner without actually doing something illegal.
Exactly. Role play is a great way to mitigate the need and desire for a sense of rush and a feeling of rush without it being illegal and without impacting others around you potentially. So I think if you do really love that rush and you and your partner really want to do something, potentially look into role play or something else, because other people don't particularly consent. Another way that is great at developing intimacy, especially for long distance couples, whether it's long distance for a month or for the entire relationship, phone sex. Whether it's texting, videoing, sexting. Thoughts?
I think it's important to respect people who are sharing the space with you, and this sort of also ties into shower sex, making noise in bed, I guess sex outside too, except just don't do that. So like if you have a roommate, make sure to not do it when they're in the room, and
Yes.
if you're sharing, for example, a hall or like walls with someone else, like your neighbors can hear you, maybe try to be quiet. Or try to be discreet when you're having phone sex or when you're sexting. I'm not sure about the sexting part because they can't really hear that through the walls. But again, just make sure you're respecting the people that you're sharing a space with, especially in a setting like college.
Yeah. I mean, no one's going to know if you're sexting someone. Maybe that can also be an alternative rush. However, please do be discreet. Either have like a privacy screen protector if that is the case. Just like reading smut, do be private if someone's not consenting to hearing about it.
Exactly. And, you know, if you are long distance and there is a time zone difference, sometimes you don't always process that, like, what time, if you are in a time where you're in a more private setting, maybe at night, your partner might not be in the same situation, and even though it's kind of expected, you know, in your time zone to be, you know, in a more private setting, they might not have the same situation. Also, I mean, you never know like where your partner is, who else is there, what they're comfortable with, unless you ask. So make sure that you have that communication beforehand. Before sending something that they might decide to look at. Because if it's just a text and they open it and it's just an image, then
there might be a little
there
shock.
might be, and there might be other people around who they like, their parents or someone who they don't, or you don't want to see that image, and they probably don't want them to see it. So you just got to be careful about who's around, and you also got to be cautious of the fact that your partner might have people around as well.
You probably don't want to accidentally flash the people sitting behind your partner in a lecture. That doesn't sound.
Oh, yes.
I think a great point, just to go off of what David was saying, is that I feel like it's more common to think about acquiring consent when it's in an in-person interaction between you and your partner, but it's just as equally important and absolutely necessary before engaging in any type of phone sex or sexting.
Yes, I agree 100%. You can send a text being like, hey, what are you doing right now? Do you want to talk about this? Or, hey, I'm feeling this way. There's also a lot of those apps that you can like share how you're feeling, and it can be like one of those things. I don't know what like app like there's some sort of apps.
Yeah, it's like those widgets that you have on your like home
Yes.
screen, and you can be like, I'm
You-
feeling scandalous, like,
Or your partner's feeling in a saucy mood right now. Like that could totally be something that you can use.
Or like create a symbol or like a saying with your partner if you don't want to outright say, oh, I want to engage in phone sex right now. Create a code that you both know so that you both are aware of what each other is thinking, so that you could go about that gaining consent in whatever way is equally comfortable and explicit for you and your partner.
Yeah. You could be like, hey, do you want to play chess right now? And then your partner could be like, hell yeah, I want to play chess. Or like, I'm really exhausted right now. I just spent a lot of time working on this. Do you mind if we play chess later today? Or something like that. One of the more sex-related things, and typically more popular and because of social media, a topic that we're sort of talking about in SHR, 69. Face to genitalia with your partner. Sorry, David's laughing. Face to genitalia with your
We're all
partner.
laughing.
Yes. It requires some gymnastics sometimes. Requires some flexibility, some core strength, some everything.
especially if you have a height difference.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Any particular immediate feelings straight off the bat?
I know some people don't prefer both giving and receiving at the exact same time. Some people prefer to separate them. So in that manner, it could be uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that could also like lead to an argument saying like, oh, why aren't you doing this right now? Like, I really want this.
Yeah.
While someone's trying to enjoy, and if they're getting really good head, that it might be really hard to continue.
Also some safety aspects, I guess. Some people, their shock response is to like close their mouth, which
Yeah.
if you have teeth, which
Yeah.
it's gonna hurt. So that's also something
I
to
feel like that would still hurt if you didn't have teeth.
yeah. Yeah, it would be bad. So like I guess just openly communicating like, okay, I'm gonna pause for a second because I'm feeling overwhelmed. That would be helpful in signaling to your partner that like what's gonna happen next.
Also developing nonverbal communication, like either like tapping on your partner's thigh or lower back, if you can't verbally communicate.
Yeah, that's important, making sure you have like some sort of a symbol, some sort of a way to communicate. That's nonverbal, absolutely. Some way to give feedback is 100% important.
We have 3 more topics. One of our last ones is mutual masturbation. So this is either you're sitting next to your partner and both of you are masturbating at the same time but not touching each other. This is not as common or popular amongst everyone, but this is, I think, something that people like to do sort of towards the end of the day if they're not really feeling if people aren't really feeling the need to sort of perform, or if they don't have the energy if people don't have the ability to sort of master someone else's body at the moment. So this could be after a long day of work, you want to relieve some tension, and your partner wants to relieve some tension, but it might just be mentally draining.
Yeah, I think to that point, like, it can also be physically draining too. So, and I think that some people might want to go at different speeds. So, it's important to have this as an option to make sure that everyone is able to go at their own pace.
And I also think it's great because you can get to know yourself better while you're doing this. You get to know your own anatomy while you get to know your partner's anatomy, and get to know, how does my partner like to do this? You can sort of see, okay, while they're masturbating, sort of what speed are they going at? Where are they touching? What particularly makes them feel good? How are they moving when they do this? Are they making any noise? Sort of what feedback is their body giving them? I think that's a great way to sort of improve your sex life and improve just sort of how you are able to please one another, but also how you're able to just sort of know your own body and know someone else's.
I think it also is a great way to develop further intimacy. There's a huge stigma in society about masturbation in general, so breaking that down and being able to not only feel confident in it by yourself, but feel comfortable doing it in front of your partner is a great way of building intimacy with one another.
I agree completely. Okay, one of our last two. Also a very popular fad on social media, pegging. This could be it could be any sort of anatomy using a strap-on, inserting it into their partner's anus. And this has a lot of mixed reactions and mixed feelings. Some people will say, like, I'd never do that. That sounds absolutely awful. Some people would be like, oh, I'm kind of interested. Or some people are like, yes, absolutely. I cannot get off without this. I think mixed range for everyone, how everyone feels. This obviously depends on your own comfort level, your partner's comfort level. Also, strap-ons are expensive. Keep that in mind. If you're trying this out for a one-time thing, it is important that you do buy your own strap-on, because recycling sex toys amongst one another is generally not a good idea, because you want them to be clean. But if you're not typically going to be interested in pegging it, or if your partner's not interested in pegging, spending a lot of money for something and then using the excuse, oh, I spent a lot of money on this, will make someone feel bad.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, a very important aspect is using a safe device in terms of having it be a proper sex toy, not substituting in a different object that will not end up being safe. Like, for example, please do not use any food items or anything of that nature that it will not be safe being inserted into your body.
Those glass Christmas trees.
Yes. So just
light bulbs.
Yeah,
Light
just in
bulbs,
general,
light
make
bulbs.
sure it's going to come out.
Exactly.
Yes. If you've seen those TikToks of, like, does it have a flared base or not, please just buy a sex toy. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy them on anywhere. They have discreet shipping.
Yes. And just communicate with your partner. Make sure it's something that you're both comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. And especially with, like, those type of, I guess, what are they called? Like, forms of sex that are kind of memeified on social media. It's important to have those open conversations with your partner instead of being like, haha, I saw this, like, video about someone joking about pegging. Do you want to try it too? But instead being, like, straightforward, telling them this is what you want or this is what you would like to try, and then getting the response instead of just taking it as a joke, because sometimes you will not get a clear response if you start the conversation off as a joke. And so that's also something to keep in mind with, like, pegging, 69, stuff like that.
This goes on to our last topic of face sitting, which is also quite memeified and talked about. Lots of people make the jokes of, like, oh, they'll love for someone to just keep on sitting on their face even when they're out of air. That is not preferable. You can tap on someone's legs, you can communicate, you can make symbols and talk about this. But face sitting in itself and developing intimacy and being in a relationship or being in a situationship or a hookup, it can develop intimacy quite a bit, or it can be not someone's favorite. What are you guys' thoughts?
I think hygiene is also important here, especially because, like, usually your facial organs, like your eyes, your mouth, are pretty sensitive to especially infections. So keeping in mind, like, hygiene, I guess for all of those topics, make sure you're cleaning up beforehand and afterwards, and making sure you're communicating with your partner about that aspect of things is gonna be a good idea, generally.
Yeah, and just making sure, like, you ask where specific things are going to be beforehand.
Yes.
On both sides, that's important.
Like, don't just sit on someone's forehead.
That's probably gonna hurt.
That would
Yeah.
probably not be fun. Be like, probably lower yourself down slowly or be like, hey, can we do this? Where would you like this? May I do this here?
Is it okay if I move at this point? Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Make consent casual. Make it approachable. Make it comfortable so that both people feel comfortable engaging in it. I also want to add that it's completely normal and understandable to not want to partake in face sitting, whether it be especially for the partner who's sitting, if they don't feel comfortable in that position, or if they feel like if they're debating between like sitting down all the way and putting on all their weight, or having to like hover, because that's difficult, puts a lot of stress on your muscles. It's completely normal to not want to do that, but that's why it's essential to have these consent conversations with your partner beforehand and during and after.
Yes. Thank you so much for that point. I really appreciate that. All right, that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in, folks. And you can find Sexy Sips, of course, right here where you are. Either that's going to be on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or you're listening to a clip on Instagram. But this probably isn't the clip that is getting picked. You never know. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Sexy Sips this season. We really appreciate you for taking your time to listen to this podcast, whether it's in the background or you're really focused. We really appreciate everyone taking their time to listen. And we'll be putting out lots more podcasts this season, so hopefully you'll tune in. Thank you so much, and have a great day.